So I've been wanting to make this video for a little bit now, just kind of talking about everything that happened to me when I was going through a lot of my stuff with depression and all of that chaos when I first started college. A little backstory is I grew up with depression and anxiety, social anxiety, and actually a phobia of the wind, which is kind of weird, I admit that, but it was my life. And so there was a while where I wouldn't even go outside. I didn't learn how to ride a bike until I was 12 because some of my mental health just wasn't capable of always going outside for it all. And there's been a lot of deaths throughout my whole life, and I've been through a lot of losses with loved ones my entire life. And so, first big death is either my grandpa, I believe, when I was in first grade. He had cancer. He had colon cancer. I think it was a third time that killed him. So he was a fighter. Yeah, I love that grandpa. I don't have many memories of him though, which is kind of sad. But so he died when I was pretty young. And then my dog died about the same year, my first dog. When you're that age though, a death's a death, and it's just kind of crazy. So then we got the new dog, Big Boy Barney, who I'll talk about him in a minute. But so I had that death, and I never handled it well. It was right by my birthday, so I never celebrated my birthday when I was a kid, really, just because I was thinking about it. And then my cousin died when I was in 6th grade. That one was weird, because I came home from school and my mom got a phone call and just said Joey died, and I was just like, what? And I couldn't comprehend it really, just because he was, I think, around 20 at the time, so it was just pretty weird. And then 2 years later after that, my aunt died. That was a hard one on me in 8th grade, because I fell asleep out on the couch watching TV next to the phone, and at like 3, 4 in the morning, a phone called, and my mom owns an assisted living home, so it was a hospital. I saw on the caller ID, and I just assumed that it was for my mom, but it turned out it was my aunt who was in the hospital, and she ended up dying a few days later. So that one was kind of hard, because I ended up answering the phone call, so that was not fun. And then when I started high school, I was pretty nervous and all. My dog Barney, who I mentioned earlier, Big Boy Barney, who was a Basset Lab mix, we think. We don't actually know. We rescued him. He was always my therapy when I went through a lot of my stuff and my depression when I was a kid. He really helped me through a lot of times, and that's why I love animals now, is because I've been affected so nicely by them all. And then when he died, everything came back to me when I was a freshman in high school. It just nailed me really hard. I ended up going to the hospital because I was having suicidal thoughts in my mind, and it wasn't fun. Especially I will never go to. I hate United Hospital because of this to this day, and Children's Hospital. Thank God I'm not a child anymore. Oh. But sorry if I'm all over the place. I'm pretty nervous doing this. Anxiety's pretty high. I just kind of want to talk about my story and not just have to type 5-page papers basically of my story. But so yeah, I started high school off pretty rough, and then I had a lot of concussions my freshman year, which we'll talk about because I'm having residuals from my first big concussion my freshman year when I got slammed on my head at wrestling practice. So that wasn't fun. And so freshman year was kind of weird. I don't remember a lot of it. I had concussions for more than half of it, so it was a mess. Freshman year was a mess. Sophomore year was better at first, especially too. It got off to a better foot, and in that second half of sophomore year, I got my first girlfriend, and it was really good for a long time. And she helped me get through a lot of stuff because we're dating only for 2-3 months, and then I was on Facebook right when school got out, like the week after school got out, the first Monday I think it was, might have been a Friday, but I found out a kid that I used to play basketball with committed suicide. And I found out because there was a tribute video on Facebook, and it just really hit me hard and was kind of weird. Definitely weird. And I don't know really how to describe it. Just because I was there about a year and a half earlier, I was feeling suicidal, and he ended up taking his own life. It was just really hard to comprehend at that time. It's still hard to just think about. It's Jeff Moore, if anybody knows him. Yeah, no, his stepmom was my daycare lady when I was in preschool, and I've known her like my whole life, so it was just kind of weird. And my girlfriend helped me get through a lot of stuff with that. Her name was Shannon, and all. So yeah, I'll just refer to her as, yeah, just so people know who I'm actually talking about. But for those that don't, won't confuse her with a ton of names. So then I got to my junior year in high school in the fall, and my aunt, who has Down syndrome, also had ALS at the time, and she ended up passing away because of ALS. Went out in I think it was October, maybe late September, but it was pretty hard. I remember I knew it was gonna happen because my mom went down there to help my parents out because she was on hospice care, or my grandparents out, her parents, yeah, don't know if I said that, but she helped them out. And when she was down there, my aunt just took some steep declines pretty quickly. It was like one day they said she could have a few months, the next day a few weeks, and the next day she passed away. So that was kind of hard, and I kind of knew what was happening. I remember being in Mr. Kuhlman's pre-calc class, and I wasn't paying attention at all that day. I was just texting my parents what was going on down in Milwaukee, because I could have visited her one more time potentially if I didn't help out with the Beacon Blast, which is it was like the little 5K or whatnot they did at Concordia to raise some money. And so instead I volunteered and helped out with that because I thought I was going to have another opportunity to see my aunt, but I didn't. And so that happened in October. That one was pretty hard. Funny story about it all was I was in Mr. Kuhlman's class, and I got pulled out. My dad was in the guidance counselor's office, and he pulled me out of class. So then I had to go back to the classroom and grab my stuff, and I was just walking out, and all of a sudden Mr. Kuhlman, the teacher, just looks at me, "Where do you think you're going?" And I just snapped my head around and said, "My aunt just died," and freaked out. So I remember just going down the hallway. I'm halfway down the hall, and all of a sudden I hear, "You're excused." So looking back at it, that was kind of a funny moment in it all. I feel like my head's getting chopped off at the top. Oh well. So that one was kind of hard, going down to Milwaukee then. Just because when we went down to Milwaukee, a lot of stuff revolved around my aunt, because we always try to make her feel more special because she did have Down syndrome and all. It was just kind of hard when she went away. And so then that brings me into my senior year. Summer of the senior year is when Mr. Stephan died. Summer going into senior is when Mr. Stephan died, and that one was weird. Never thought a teacher would die. Never thought it'd be Mr. Stephan either. So that one was kind of hard too. Then I got through my senior year without any more deaths that I can think of. There's more minor deaths when I was younger. I just didn't mention them because they weren't that big of a deal. And then so that brings me kind of to where my computer, did it die? Nope, it's good. No, I think I just turned it off. Anyway, so late senior year for me, I found out my pastor, my associate pastor, not the head pastor, but the associate, got a calling to go to Billings, Montana. And I was really close with him. He helped me through a lot of stuff when I was a freshman in high school that I mentioned earlier. He was my neighbor too, kinda. It's kind of weird how the houses are arranged, but he was just a couple houses down. I could see his backyard from my front door. It's like a kitty corner type of thing. So yeah, that's where he was. And so he left, and he was always kind of like someone I knew I could talk to if I needed it, which I never really did. But part of it was just knowing I had that support and I had that person I could talk to when I needed it, more so than actually talking to him. So he left in the summer then. It was a really hard service. I remember crying through all of it. It was more like a funeral, if anything. There was so many people crying at that service because he touched so many people and he was leaving. So that happened. And during this time, I was playing soccer. Like a lot of people know, I was a big soccer person. And I ended up hurting my back pretty bad in my neck at one point. And I was having chest pain a lot when I was playing, and I didn't know why. But I was gonna play at Hamlin University in downtown St. Paul. Or not, I don't know if that's downtown, but in St. Paul. Whatever. So I was at Hamlin playing soccer, and very first day, fitness test. First day of soccer, we moved in 2 days early. But first day of soccer, we had a fitness test at like 7 or 7:30 in the morning, and I ran one lap, pretty solid, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. And it was extreme chest pain, lightheadedness. Couldn't catch my breath. It was kind of scary. I didn't know what was happening. So that happened, and then we were supposed to have 3 practices after that the day, so it was like a 4-day. So I didn't do anything the first 2 practices, and then on the third last practice of the day, I did some light stuff, but I did some light stuff, and I passed out. And I was out cold, and that was kind of scary. I remember I was going up for a high ball. I was a goalie. I was going up to catch a high ball, and next thing I know, I landed, and next thing I know, another goalie was holding my feet in the air to get the blood back up to my head or whatnot. I don't really know what happened. It was kind of scary. Kind of freaked me out. And so, the next day, it was a Wednesday that happened, so on a Thursday, I had to go to the doctor. I had to get my heart heard and listened to and all that kind of stuff. And I was with the goalie I was holding my feet. Him and me were both there, and we were there for 3 hours because he hurt his hand and had to get x-rays done on it, and I was getting my heart looked at. So that was an interesting time. It was nice that I had him there. Shout out to Dean Isaacson. But they found a heart murmur in me, or what? I don't know. Whatever. They found a heart murmur, so meaning there was a little backflow or leak or something, they said. And so I had to see a cardiologist next day and get a echo done on my heart. My EKG was fine, so they wanted me to do an echo, which is an ultrasound of the heart. Which, when they did that, they found that I have a bicuspid aortic valve, which your aorta is supposed to have 3 kind of leaflet things. Mine only had 2 because 2 of them fused together when I was in the womb. I don't know how it went undetected my whole life. So it was a pretty soft murmur. But so that's why. And that day I got some really weird news because it really affected me for a while. And the cardiologist told me to not work out or do any physical activity until we get further testing done on my heart. I think I had to get a CAT scan on my heart, I believe, until I get that CAT scan, because some of the veins on the outside of my heart could be getting pinched because of this thing, and it might just be affecting me now. And he said I could be at a high risk of a heart attack. I never had a heart attack, but I was at a high risk, he said, for a while, and that terrified me. I was 18 at the time. I didn't want a heart attack at 18. That's way too young for a heart attack, and it's kind of scary. No drink. So that was kind of hard. This is gonna be a long video. I'm sorry, people. Oh well. That's more detail. So where was I? So the following Monday, I got the CAT scan done, and it came back good. It was okay. I wasn't at the risk of a heart attack, but I was still scared, like I was. I couldn't quite overcome that I was okay and not gonna have a heart attack. Because it's, when you hear that, it's just like, you're an athlete, you think you're invincible. I just got into college, top of the world, and I found out I could get a heart attack and possibly die at any second. It's just like, what is going on in my life? And it is, sorry if I'm looking outside at times, the outdoors just right there, and 2 dogs are annoying. So yeah, so I ended up quitting soccer after that because I wanted to focus on my health, because I've also had a ton of concussions. Those of you that know, I had to wear a helmet, and when I played goalie in soccer, because I had so many concussions, and so I had to leave the team. And this is when I got into a very deep depression. This is kind of the start of the very deep one I went in during this time. Another thing that happened to me before I get into the depression side is I started losing vision in my right eye. Started losing vision in my right eye pretty drastically, pretty quick. I got my eyes checked before I went to college, just because I was due for one. And I was like 20, 25 or so I was pretty good. I didn't really need glasses, they said. But all of a sudden I went in and I was like 20/40, 20/50, and they didn't know why I was like that. So I ended up having to go to a neuro-ophthalmologist, which it took like 3-4 months to get into that, so I'll talk about it later. But then back to the depression stuff. I remember calling my former club coach, Court Shaw, and crying for about 20 minutes with him. He wasn't crying, just me. But I was crying, just feeling like a failure, because I always wanted to... He went to Hamlin too, and I really looked up to Core, just because I just did. He was my coach for like 5 years or so. So he was just a really big role model. He actually went to school... When he was at Hamlin, he went to school with my older sister, Heather. So yeah, I actually went to church with him one time before I really even knew who he was, which was kind of funny. But yeah, so I called him and I was on the phone with him for a long time, and he was trying to tell me that it's okay, that he didn't play all 4 years and everything. So it's kind of hard though still to quit soccer, because I did it for so much time of my day was dedicated to soccer for so long. And so it was kind of hard. That was a really big change that I was not expecting to have anytime soon. I thought I was going to be able to play 4 years and then be done and do a men's league or something. So that happened. And then the following week I went to the hospital twice, 2 different times. I think it was on a Tuesday and a Thursday, maybe a Friday. I don't quite remember the days, because I was having suicidal thoughts. I looked up on my phone how to commit, at one point, so that was pretty hard. And yeah, that was pretty hard. And then my birthday was about a week and a half later after I got out of the hospital the second time. And I hate my birthday. Everyone knows that, really, because my grandpa died close to my birthday, so it's always been a thing that I haven't liked and haven't enjoyed, because if you think about it, I was just wanting to kill myself a week and a half earlier, so why would I want to celebrate my birth? So that birthday was kind of hard, very hard. Then about a week later, I couldn't fall asleep on the October 24th. Well, the night of October 24th, morning October 25th. I couldn't fall asleep for the longest time. I was up until about 4 or 5, and during that time, I planned a way to commit suicide. And so, the next morning, in my mom's car, I tried to overdose. And so, that was pretty hard. A really hard thing was, I didn't remember how much I had to do to overdose. I didn't remember how much I actually had to take to kill myself. So I had it on my phone. I looked it up earlier to make sure, and I looked at my phone, and I remember my girlfriend texted me that night. It was like 2 in the morning. She was texting me. She never texted me that late, but we were just talking. Not much. I was kind of skeptical. I was in a weird state of mind. Like, I didn't know if one of her friends took her phone, so I was just kind of weirded out, because they did take her phone and go on her Snapchat before, because I remember trying to go to sleep one day before, like a month earlier, and they were, next thing you know, I'm getting Snapchats from them, from her account and all. So yeah, I panicked. I felt like someone was there for me, because the thing is, what kind of led to it was, I was living at home with my parents, and one of my sisters was at home, and I didn't want to go back. I was having problems living on the dorm, because I was in a weird roommate situation, because I wasn't really taking my meds during this whole time either, like I've been taking since I was about 7. I wasn't taking my anxiety and depression meds, because I felt intimidated taking them in the room. I felt like I was getting watched the whole time, and it's just really awkward. So I didn't take my meds for a long time. So that wasn't good. So that day, then the 24th, my dad asked me if I had any plans moving back to the dorms. My mom did, and my sister did, all on the same day, which made me feel like they didn't want me around, and I felt like they didn't want me. So that was kind of what led up to the attempt as part of that, because I really just needed support, and I couldn't go back to the campus at the time. So yeah, because I didn't close out of the text message, the conversation, when I fell asleep, because I slept for a couple hours still somehow. I was up to like 5:36 that night. So I saw the text, and I stopped right away, because I felt like someone was there for me. Felt like I actually had someone who had my back and who cared about me and loved me. So I stopped. I called my girlfriend first to apologize for what I did, and I texted her, I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I'm scared. And then I called 911, and that was one of the hardest things I had to do, was go inside, and I was on the phone with the 911 operator, and I had to go inside and tell my dad what I just did. And my mom worked the overnight the night before, so she was sleeping, and she woke up to an ambulance taking me away to the hospital, which was really hard, because I hated hospitals. It's I've had some bad experiences in hospitals before. So, that happened. And then, I could go in more details there, but I don't really want to as much. So I went to the hospital, was scared to death to have to stay the night there. One thing that sucked is that it was the Packers were on the bye week too, so I didn't even get to watch the Packers there. That pissed me off more than made me sad. I was pissed I couldn't watch the Packers. I remember having words with one of the nurses about Packer Vikings. Trash talk is always good. So, that was on a Monday. I stayed the Sunday. I stayed that night, and I got out Monday. And then I had an appointment early on Tuesday, well, in the afternoon with my regular therapist. And, I got some really hard news then. I got through my mom. So people were talking behind my back, which is still kind of hard to this day. Hey, Susu. You'll be in the video in a minute. Well, more like 5-10. Yeah, you'll get in the video soon. But found out through my mom that my girlfriend didn't want to be in a relationship anymore with me, and all. So that was pretty hard. That scar still hurts, because at this point I felt really abandoned, total abandonment at this point. And so it was pretty scary. I was really down, really depressed. And so that was probably when I hit rock bottom after that. So, yeah, that one. Finding out through your mom and your therapist about that after what all just happened is not easy. Because I remember earlier, if you remember earlier, I talked about how I had a friend, an old teammate that committed suicide. I remember a girl at his funeral that was crying like I've never seen before. I've never seen someone so hurt before. And I don't know if it's true, but I heard it was his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, or I don't know what their relationship was at the time. So I never wanted to hurt her like that, and that's why when I saw the text, I stopped. Because I didn't want to put her through that, what I saw. 1 second. Gotta go potty, Sue. Oh boy, Copper. So yeah, I know a lot of people, the big thought was that I did it because we went to different colleges is the why I attempted, and she wasn't there all the time, and that's not true. It was, I did soccer since I was 13, about 5 days a week, all year long, except around Christmas, really. So when I felt like I lost a part of my identity when I lost soccer, and I didn't have that anymore. So that was the reason. That, and I didn't really have my support systems anymore around me. And it wasn't just her. I didn't have my pastor. That was a big thing. That, because I started noticing all summer leading up to college, I was very anxious and very nervous a lot more. So my pastor left, and then I had a sister who I went to college up in North Dakota, and she went to Pittsburgh for a year or two. So she was the one closest in age with me, so I didn't get to see her as much as I would have liked to, and I was going through a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, it wasn't her fault. And then, okay, so to post all that, now I'll talk about, this brings us kind of close to Thanksgiving time now. I couldn't start my therapy for like a few weeks because insurance was being a pain in the butt. So it brings us to Thanksgiving, and by the time Thanksgiving came, I lost about 50 to 60 pounds from what I was in like before I started college. I was down about a third to a fourth of my body weight. A third, not a fourth. Not a fourth. I wasn't that big. So about a third of my body weight. No, wait. No, it could have been a fourth. It wasn't 60 then. Anyway, so I lost a ton of weight really quickly. So I couldn't eat much. One weekend after everything happened, I couldn't eat all weekend. I was nauseous 24/7 because I was so nervous and scared and so much anxiety. I thought I was going to puke every 5 seconds, which wasn't fun. And then I finally started Prairie Care, which helped me. It was a intensive outpatient program where you go 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for 3 hours from, or is it 4? It's either from 8 to noon or 9 to noon, I think. I don't remember. But I met a lot of cool people there. You're in a therapy group, and also I was the youngest one in my group after the first week because people graduate at certain times. We're all on a different schedule, kind of. So you have people that are about to be done with the program and people that just got in that day. So after a week, I was the youngest in my group by about over 30 years. No one was that close to me in age, really, except maybe one guy. Might have been more 20 years older. But yeah, so it was interesting. I learned a lot from people that were older than me. It was nice to have the older people because I learned a lot from them. I learned from their past mistakes, and that really helped me because there's this one guy who we had a lot of the same stuff and all. He's one of the reasons why I don't want to drink ever in my life, because I saw a lot of myself in him, and he was an alcoholic for a while, and he opened up about that and told me about it, and I didn't want to go down that same path he did, and he told me not to, and he said it's not worth to just have a beer here, a beer there, because everyone starts out like, oh, I know myself, I can do moderation, but we still have alcoholics all the time. So he made a big impact on my life. He really showed me how to move forward with my depression. And then this brings me about to January then, where I finally get to the eye doctor, well, the neuro-ophthalmologist. So they ended up finding out that I was having residuals from my past concussions. For some reason they could tell which concussion it was even,